Ready to go. What's up, Alberto?
What's up?
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am good. I am good.
Good, man. Good to see you today
Good to see you.
with all that long wavy hair of yours.
Exit that one. Okay. Okay, let's see. Let me just double check and make sure this is the right thing.
Okay.
Copy. I shared the wrong. I shared the wrong thing on my, what's it called? On my
On Instagram?
on Instagram, yeah, because I had to redo it. So I'm gonna
And me too. So I shared the one you tagged me on. So
let me delete that.
all right, let me do the same thing.
And I'll put it right here right now. Okay, there you go. Cool. So yeah, we're gonna do this, I guess, every Wednesday at 10:30, 10:45.
Yep.
That way we can help other investors get involved with investing down here, learning about the Riviera Maya, why it's important. We'll cover topics on all kinds of things. Have people ask questions and go from there. So yeah, I guess for today, you pick the topic and we'll dive into it.
Okay. You talking about me or talking about the audience?
Well, you for now.
All right. So let's talk about the unrealistic expectations that
Okay.
that investors have in the Riviera Maya in general, right? You know, we get a request for I want an oceanfront or 1 block from the ocean condo for $250,000. You know, and they expect because we're in Mexico, it's supposed to be cheap and they're supposed to be able to find things like this. And I just don't see it feasible. How do you feel about when customer asks you, I want oceanfront 2-bedroom, $250,000. I want to look at the ocean from my terrace. How do you feel? What do you think?
Mahawala is a good option and there's nothing there.
And even there, it's not too.
That's expensive. Yeah, it's expensive.
Yeah.
You have El Cuyo, which you could probably buy some land there. There's some stuff there. But no, I mean, yeah, they have to understand that there are underground, underwater cenotes. There's permits that are not given for that in different areas. And yeah, I mean, you want oceanfront, you know, place to build a house. Well, for 250, that's not possible. In Shan Khan, there's areas where you can, but you can only build on 15% of the land. So in order to get something like that, you have to spend a lot of money because your house is only 15% of the land. Then I think about it like this, like what does the investor think that they want to get that for? Is their main goal ROI? Because being closer to the beach doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have a higher ROI. Like what the market the people who are coming as a Airbnb guest is they could go to Cancun, they could go to Playa, they could go to Puerto Morelos, they could go to other places instead of driving 2 hours to be in Tulum specifically. I'm talking about Tulum. So they have to understand kind of what their goal is, what kind of investor they want to be. Do they want passive income to make some sort of monthly cash flow? Because being closer to the beach might not necessarily be that option for them. And two is they can't do that. Like legally, there's no place that you can build a property on the beach in Tulum.
Well, let's talk about the Riviera Maya.
Yeah.
Just for example, in Playa del Carmen, a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 2 blocks from the beach, 2 blocks from the beach, that has an ocean view from the terrace is $500,000. And that's not even on the beach. And that's in Playa del Carmen. They're $475,000, $560,000, $800,000. If you start going towards, for example, in Puerto Morelos, I'm gonna name drop right now. A friend of mine, name is Denise Garcia. She is the developer for development in Puerto Morelos on the beach. It's literally on the beach. And it's called Nalu. And they start at like 500, and the oceanfront ones are like a 1-bedroom's like 600 grand, so but it's on the beach, which is awesome, man. People want to have that kind of option. It's there. My argument isn't against, buying a oceanfront condo. It's the argument is the expectations people have, because this is an emerging country, an emerging economy. They assume that things should be very inexpensive, when coming to Mexico. There are condos in Mazatlan, for example. Mazatlan has, towers, 30 floors, 40 floors, 2-bedroom, 2-bath, ocean view for 250 grand. I mean, I actually was in a course with the director of sales and the owner of a development company out there a couple of weeks ago, and he has developments out there they're building right now, and they're in that price range. But I wouldn't want to buy a condo in Mazatlan. If you look at the tourism over there, it's mostly, I think their occupancy was like 40 to 50% this year, nothing close to what it's like over here in Cancun and the Riviera Maya. So, I mean, are there places like that in Mexico? Absolutely. Is there places in the Riviera Maya?
No.
No.
Yeah, I mean, Mazatlan, you don't have, I've been there. I worked in a hostel there for about 3 weeks. They have really good pizza, but they don't have an ocean like Caribbean crystal clear blue. That's more along the lines of like your traditional Mexico.
Of course, Gulf of Mexico kind of style. So you actually hit something a minute ago. You started dabbling on a conversation where there's people, we have customers right now, we're not talking negatively about any customers that are watching this, that feel that this is a two-part, this can be like a complaining session today. This is a 2-part, all right? One is they're taking advice from friends and family members on what they should or shouldn't do with their investment. And if that's the case, well, I mean, we all use Google and we use Chat GPT when our wives and girlfriends and our people are sick. We'll go and search for stuff saying, hey, what's this disease, right? But if we're sick, we're actually sick, we go to a doctor, right? We go to someone that actually specializes or can actually help us figure out what's wrong with us, right? So, recommendations and advice and consejos and give you stuff what you should or shouldn't do with your money, it's all fine and dandy. But when you're actually going to get down to the nitty gritty and start looking at investing your money, you want to talk to a professional in the industry, right? Opinions are amazing. So when you argue your point of view with a professional real estate agent, I'm sure there's going to be agents that are going to be like clapping on this conversation. When you have customers that are arguing with the agent saying, my brother says, my mom says that I should be doing this, this, and this, and going against what the real estate agency is actually giving them recommendations for, it's kind of, let us help you, right? Let us help you do a better thing. That's one. And then second part would be assuming that just because you're on the beach, you're going to get a better return on your investment, like you just touched on a minute ago, right? So depends on where you go in the world. I bet you if you go to Hawaii, an oceanfront condo is going to rent a lot higher in Hawaii than an inside condo, right? And like inland condo, inland development, stuff like that, because it's Hawaii and that's what you're going there for, right? To look at these beaches. Here in the Riviera Maya, it's getting to the point now where it's not just oceanfront people are coming here for now, right? They're coming here for the jungle, the experience, the living life in the Riviera Maya, you know? So give me your thoughts on both those.
Yeah, I think, okay, so you touched on the point of like an investor coming to us in the agency, right? And then we also can go to hire companies to look for that type of answer as well. And I'll give you an example. We have Swarovski Crystal, we have Victoria's Secret, we have Azulik, and we have a company named Pininfarina, who we're now associated with. They're buying 30 minutes away from the ocean. Now, my point is that these guys have millions and millions and millions of dollars for market research.
Mhm.
And there's an adage, you know, an old adage, if you build it, they will come. Well, they're buying 30 minutes outside of Tulum, knowing based on their market research that this is the area that will be growing. Why? Because we have the train coming and we have the airport, and they understand what people are coming to the Riviera Maya for. It's not necessarily the beach. I mean, I remember being a kid, you know, for spring break, all my friends were coming to Cancun to go to the beach. They've been doing that for years. And now with the infrastructure growing, other people like, you know, my parents or like a generation above me, they've already been there, done that. And now they're able to experience a new experience that they didn't think of because there's more stuff here. 30 years ago, 25 years ago, we didn't have Tulum like we know it as of now. And so the people, the travelers are coming here to visit and be a part of that jungle atmosphere where they're away from people. They're here for health, you know, like yoga, wellness. I mean, you have Azulik, which has their in Francisco Umay, they have a beautiful restaurant, they have a beautiful museum there. And across from there, now we have Swarovski, Pininfarina, as well as the girls from Victoria's Secret.
Yep.
And there's a reason for that. So when we think about kind of, you know, that person looking, that investor looking for the 250,000, having these expectations, it's like, no, those don't exist. I mean, this country, the other thing is a lot of people, the news, the way the world is, they position Mexico as like this poor country. It's sad that that is like that, but it's not.
No.
It's not like that at all. You have very wealthy people here. We don't have debt like we do in the United States. And I think that the stigma behind Mexico is just that. And that's not the reality. That's
It's changing
not the
fast right
reality
now, man.
whatsoever.
Changing fast.
Yeah.
You know, you're absolutely right.
And I think the smarter people are the ones that are seeing it for what it is, and they are making those investments here. And now things are getting expensive. You know, the cost of materials. I mean, we have a war going on in Ukraine. Well, a lot of that affects the prices of steel. A lot of steel comes from overseas, and those what's it called, prices are affected here. And when that's affected, the prices do go up. You know, the price of land kind of stays the same, but now with the train, we have that's driving prices up. In the past like 6 months, the price of land has gone up 25% here in the Riviera Maya, and it's still going to go up. We're the other thing is, people I don't think understand that this state is only about 50 years old, right? So you look at like a city in New York, like, and all the cities in the United States, those have been around for hundreds of years. So we're just getting started here as a municipality, as a city, I mean, as a state. there's not much. I think it started as a state as like in 1963 or 1973. And so,
Yep. 1902.
yeah, but the state of Quintana Roo is,
Oh, that's
I
even,
think,
I think it's even like even
1963,
older.
1973.
Oh, when it actually got, when it became a municipality, like a state?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll look it up.
So
1974.
1974. Yeah.
I got it for you. You're absolutely right. You know, matter of fact, I was in a conference yesterday
What do you
morning.
do? Ask ChatGPT?
Nope, my old friend Google. The amount of investors that are moving into Mexico for nearshoring, it's real, right? You have a lot of a lot of manufacturing companies, a lot of companies are getting out of China. They're coming to Mexico, and Mexico is slowly getting more and more powerful, right? You've got the Fantastic Seven, right? That's what Google, Amazon, Mac, what's the other one? Microsoft,
IBM, maybe.
IBM, the Fantastic Seven. Those guys are all moving their manufacturing. Tesla is one of them as well, is buying thousands of acres of land in Mexico, and they're basically bringing jobs to Mexico. One, and two, they're bringing a lot of their export and importing now is going to be coming out of Mexico, which is huge for Mexico.
Well, let's explain what nearshoring is, right? So offshoring would be like the United States moves everything to China because it's cheaper. But nearshoring is where all these countries that are trying to import into the United States would move to a country like Mexico that's closer so that they can manufacture there. And that's
Right.
one thing that Mexico is growing for, is the nearshoring, because now these countries can build their manufacturing plants here. China is building huge manufacturing plants here for the purpose of importing it into the United States. It's cheaper.
Canada, South America.
And so, yeah, and Latin America, all of Latin America, really.
Yeah. So I agree with you 100% on the fact how, Mexico is an emerging market with BRICS and the investments and the nearshoring. That in itself is going to increase property values. This is infancy stage. Like you were saying a moment ago, this isn't a 300-year-old state, right? This is not back in, this wasn't a long time ago. There's been a bunch of bumps and bruises and growing pains. This is literally right now going through these growing pains of finding the balance between, eco-friendly, sustainable developments, not just bulldozing and destroying everything like they did in Florida. Because Florida, I mean, look at the Everglades, right? It's beautiful. The entire coast of Florida used to be, I'm talking 1700s or before that, right? I'm talking a long time ago, used to be like that, right? Well, Quintana Roo is in the beginning phases. And if we can learn from our mistakes in the past on developments and construction and how to do infrastructures, we can create, a hidden gem, a Zen down here, right? And I say this, we can create, I'm not saying this as an outsider. Digo, soy mexicano, hablo español, digo, soy de México. Entonces, mis paisanos queremos crear algo increíble, right? So I'm saying we can create something incredible and for everybody to enjoy. So it's not just a concrete wonderland. And that's going to come at a cost, right? Slowly, the prices keep on going up and raising and raising and raising. People say, can I still get involved in the inexpensive stuff? We've mentioned it before in many of our other videos. There are opportunities like that still available, where you're not buying the oceanfront stuff, and there's lots of them. And there's a couple of them that are really cool, that are super cool, that I favor a little bit more than the other ones. When you think about Ferrari, you think about an amazing, setup. You mentioned it a minute ago out there in Francisco May. And then you have other stuff in Puerto Morelos and stuff like that as well, which is another town in the Riviera Maya. But really, the main point, I think, that I wanted to get off my chest and I wanted to share with anyone who's watching and when we have this recorded is, if you come to a professional to assist you, make sure that professional is a licensed real estate agent in the Riviera Maya, one, and take their advice, right? You can feel people out. You can see if they're trying to force you into buying something or if they're giving you options. There's a difference. Right? When someone's giving you options, you weigh them out based on the criteria you're trying to do for yourself. And if you like them, great. If you have questions, ask the questions. And if you feel someone's trying to push you into something, then obviously you need to go to somebody else. I get that part. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about technical questions. I'm talking about giving you statistically backed up opinions, right? Educated guesses, quote unquote. Because someone will ask me, what do you think? You think there'll be great return on my investment on this condo? Well, based on the studies of a 5-kilometer radius of where this condo is being developed right now, based on the results of the people on the outside right now, what they're getting, and based on your amenities versus the amenities they have, do a benchmark and I can give you an educated guess based on statistics on how effective this location is going to be for you, right? But I can't, no one can guarantee you anything other than death and taxes, and Nick can help you with the taxes, right? So take the advice of your agencies, whoever you're working with, and their opinion, their educated opinions. That's one. And two, don't come with unrealistic expectations. Don't get discouraged if you don't find an oceanfront condo for $150,000. No one's going to find it. It's just not real anymore. You might have found that 20 years ago, and even then it wasn't oceanfront. So keep your expectations in line so you don't feel let down as your options are being presented to you, and take the advice of your real estate professionals as well. So that's my my vent. Now we can talk about whatever you want.
Yeah, I guess maybe when we talk about like reaching out and gaining trust from an agent, right? So I've gone through the process. What is it that you should look for in working with an agent down here, that you have the confidence that, one, they're not just trying to get a commission, right? Because if they're sending you options, what's their role in those options, right? We don't really have an MLS. I think you mentioned that we are working on getting that organized. What is it? What are some characteristics, I guess, to look for someone when you are making this investment? Because it is a lot of money. Like, we don't have financing, but we do have a meeting on Saturday that we're going to do a live meeting. So anybody watching this, we do have financing, something that you probably don't want to miss. It will be recorded and put up, but
what are some of the saying it, right? You're so used to saying there's no financing, no financing. You're kind of like, you got to rewire yourself, man.
Yeah, now we do have financing, which is going to change the game.
Yeah.
And I think it will. Well, I started on this topic of what are the things that we need to look for.
Yep.
But remind me, how is financing going to change the game? That'll be the next thing. I'm going to touch on that.
Okay. I got it written down.
Okay.
So what are we looking for? What do I look for in an agent?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm asking you. You're going.
Oh, I mean, one, I think, is someone that's going to actually take the time to sit down and meet with you, and not continuously tell you, oh yeah, I'll get back to you. I'll get back to you. And they ask, I think, more questions than you do. Like, all right, not you in general, I mean, like, than the investor, right? They ask more questions to figure out, okay, what is it that you truly want? What is the reason for you to even be excited? Why did you even reach out to me? What is it that what are your expectations of this investment?
It's huge. Big question.
Is this something that you're looking to build passive income, meaning you need cash flow right away? Because those questions figure out for us as an agency or whoever is, how is the conversation going to go? Because if you have someone that is looking to get cash flow right away, well, we're not going to talk about pre-construction or buying land and building, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if someone has, like, we have a customer the other day, he's like, no, my time is completely, like, this is a 5-year project for me. I have the money, but I don't really need the money. Okay, well, if you're looking for ROI over a long period of time, let's sit down and figure out the numbers on buying a piece of land and having someone and you building it out. Because with that, if you have a long time period that you're not worried about having cash flow right away, I'm not going to talk to you about a new development that's about to be delivered, next month. And with that, you can get a lot of ROI from that because one, you're in control of it, and two, you have a lot of time to kind of figure out what you want to build.
Yep.
The other thing is their track record. Like, what have they built? What have they worked on? Who, like, if you're working with an agent, quote unquote, what's their track record with the companies that they've worked with? Have they been there for a long time? You don't have to go too deep into it, but in the first 10 minutes,
Not a bad question for someone to ask.
Yeah.
If you're going to be representing me on one of my investments, I want to find out who you are. How long have you been in Mexico? Yeah. How long you worked for that company? Are you a licensed agent? Why aren't you? Are you working with an agency? Or are you quote unquote independent, as people have that misconception of understanding what independent really means in Mexico? I mean, you're right. I don't think it's bad to ask those questions.
You had a statistic or a number the other day that there's like, how many agents?
There's over 4,000 agents
4,000
in
agents.
real estate. Yeah. And there's only I think it's 680 or 700 licensed. And that list is available in the government website. It's called Sedetus, Sedutus, Sedetus, Detus. And you go there, you go to the real estate part, and you'll find Mula Properties is one of those 700. But it just goes to show, I don't want to be negative, right? I'm not trying to talk bad about people trying to make a dollar. There are some good agents that just haven't gotten their real estate license yet, but they're honest, they're knowledgeable, they work with good agencies. I mean, they're good people, but I think it's a professional step, right? If we're going to try to make this into a profession in the Riviera Maya, then we need to make it a licensed, right? You have to be licensed in order to give people advice on finances. But continue, I'm listening.
Yeah, and I think some other things would be like acting like a consultant, right? Where they're not pushing anything on you, where you feel comfortable in the sense of, if you ask a question, it's not like, oh, you're wrong. No, it's because of this. They explore why you asked that question, right? So if I say, well, I really like this place, it's really nice. I think it would be good. But for instance, like there's developers that will come down in Tulum. They come from different cities, they come from different countries, they come from different places. And it might be their first build. It looks amazing, but to the investor, it's like, wow, this is awesome, this is different. But if you have the knowledge as an agency or a consultant in this region, it's like, yeah, but this doesn't really fit in, and you have to understand the market for who's coming here, right? Mm-hmm. And so there's a fine line or a balance between, just trying to sell something to make that commission, and then also giving you the options of, or the knowledge of, like, yeah, this is a different type of building. It doesn't really fit into Tulum, and this isn't the reason why people come here. And here are the reasons as to why. Now, obviously, the investor can ask questions and they can do whatever they want, because maybe they just want to live there. Maybe they want to live there, right? But if their goal is to make an ROI, some of the developers, they come and they try to bring a new amazing project that's different. And sometimes that will work and sometimes it won't work, but you have to look at the data, have someone that knows this type of stuff to be able to help you in that decision.
I'll talk about the agent part first. When you're talking about how to build a good agent, how to choose a good agent, right? I think you can tell if somebody's being honest with you, if somebody has a hidden agenda. Most people have that gut feeling, you know, that funny feeling in your belly when you know somebody's trying to work you. I think it's, you know, it's also the time in which how long it takes for them to respond, you know, attentiveness to your requests. You know, that's actually, there's a statistic here in the region that the average is like almost a day later. That's actually something that's become, you know, a trend in this area. And the reason that happened was, if you go back about 18 months or 24 months, there were so many investors calling to buy, and they were literally with money in hand, ready to buy it in that moment. So the agencies got spoiled, so to speak, and they were taking care of the immediate sale. And there was so many of them that it was like, didn't really have to worry about messaging anybody back. But that's changed, you know, it's changed a lot. And now, you know, the cream is going to rise to the top. The people that have been here for a while, that are in for the long run, are going to always be courteous, respond to you quickly, you know. But obviously, if you send a message at 1 o'clock in the morning, they'll get upset. You get it responded in 15, 20 minutes. But
sometimes we'll respond at 1 in the morning.
I know you do. I get messages from you at 1 in the morning. So, you know, response time is important. Also, like Nick said, make sure they're asking you questions, right? You know, why, like Nick was saying, why do you want to buy? Where do you want to buy? What triggered you to think about Mexico? Why Mexico? The 5 whys, right? Why Mexico? Why now? Why here? Why me? You know, that kind of stuff. You know, what are you trying to do, and what are you trying to get accomplished? And how is that going to make you feel, right? If you're getting those kind of questions, they're properly assessing you and giving you advice, versus just being a sales agent and just trying to get your budget, saying, how much do you want to spend? How many bedrooms do you want? Perfect. These are your options, right? Instead, it's more of where, why, when, how, you know, long-term goals, short-term goals. What are you trying to get done? What are you trying to get accomplished? That kind of stuff. And then you're establishing a relationship, right? And this person, this agent, is going to really know and understand what you're trying to get accomplished. And then when they present the products to you, what they're going to do is they're going to make sure, explain to you, based on what you told me here, based on what you said here are the options that fit that criteria. And from these, let me know which ones you do or don't like, so I can then amplify my search based on that criteria to see if we can find something that fits what you want, right? That's the kind of feeling you need to be getting, the kind of assessments you need to be getting, versus just asking for the price and how many rooms you want, right? So I think it's great. That's great. It's awesome. Now to hit on the developer part. I was in a course. I'm always in courses, right? I was in a course about 2 months ago with an agency called Red MBA, right? And what these guys do, what this agency does, they are a market analysis. Basically, they set industry standards, market analysis for developers in the region. So what they'll do is, between, you know, 90 to 150,000 pesos, which is like, what's that, like 4 to 8 grand, give or take a few. They'll do a market analysis of your development. What you're going to do is you're going to get your business plan together. You're going to give it to them, saying, look, this is what I want to build. And they're going to go through this through a checklist that they've already got based on licenses, construction licenses, permits, zoning, area, density. They're going to look at your pricing structure, cost of construction, proof of concept, the idea, the architectural design. And then they're going to look at the location where you want to build and what the benchmarks are around that area, and see if it's a viable green light, red light, build, don't build, right? And it's unfortunate that a lot of developers don't do that. A lot of developers, what they'll do is they'll build based on emotion, on what they like. I love this. This is going to be amazing. And no matter if it's the end result is going to be a negative catastrophe in their pocketbook, they still want to do it because that's what they want to do. That's their dream, right? My dream is to be a developer. Well, I would love to be a professional football player, but I'm slow and I'm not tall. I can't throw the ball. But you know, I'm not going to go be a football player. So they do it anyways, and then they end up having unsold units. Then they have issues with the foundation. They have issues with cracks in the wall, the cement settling, and having these fissure, like little, looks like pressure cracks, you know, on the outside of the building. I mean, a lot of things happen when they start building and not understanding the location. And I'm not talking about just foreign developers, Nick. There's developers from Monterrey There's developers
I
from
know.
Mexico City, from Guadalajara. They're from Mexico. I mean, I think it's fair to say 80% of the developers in Tulum are Mexicans. You know, they're a Mexican company, and the rest are foreigners. So people think that it's all gentrification, that we're coming in and developing. It's not. It's Mexico is developing most of their own area, right? And they just don't understand that even though they've
Humidity,
heard that
the
there's
climate.
caves underneath, they're not doing full density. They're not doing full, surveys. A quick story. About 15 years ago, 16 years ago, here in Playa del Carmen, over there by Cocoa Beach. You know where Cocoa Beach is, where the reef is at, and it used to be Cannibal Royale, Martina Beach Club, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there was a development there that it's in front of where Simca built, called Deva, and in front there was a development there, right? So the survey, what they did is they noticed that underneath this development, there was a huge dome, a cave underneath it. I mean, huge, it was massive. And they did checks, and what they didn't do, they didn't want to put pillars through because it was going to be too expensive to put the pillars through the cave and break that. I mean, I'm talking I'm talking a good like 50 yards, 100 yard size cave. I mean, big, the whole lot was on top of this big bubble, this cave, right? And they didn't put the pillars through. They built on top of it. It was okay. They saved money. They were from Monterrey, these developers, okay? And they had like 4 or 5 pieces of land over there, and they had plans for more development. I'm going to tell you how catastrophic this was for them. So they built, condos were built, people moved in. I mean, they had like 80% sold. The land next to them, the same owners, but they hired a different builder, okay? And this other builder was by the book. This other builder did the exact same survey and said, you know what? I don't feel comfortable building on top of this bubble. So they did put the pillars through. Well, when they put the pillars through the cave, the entire cave fell in. So the building that was already done next door shifted completely. Your bathrooms fell in. I mean, people were like stuck in their places. I mean, it was hardcore. It was a complete nightmare. And it was fine, but it was because 2 different builders, not developers, 2 different builders had 2 different philosophies. And this builder said, I'm going to do it the right way, put the pillars in the ground, broke through the cave wall or the cave ceiling, and caused the collapse on the one next door. And this will happen when you don't understand the logistics of this area, and trying to save a couple $1,000s. I mean, it's expensive to put those pillars down there, right? Save a couple $1,000s to then lose hundreds of thousands of dollars because they had to return money. I mean, they went bankrupt. These guys left. They sold the land that they were going to be building on, and they went back to Monterrey, and they never built again down here. And this was a long time ago. But things like that do happen. And it happens when they're not from here and they don't understand the logistics and how to build. So,
but it's not to say that you don't have to be from here to build. Like, you have to do your due diligence, right? And that's who, I mean, we work with, reputable people, to where, there's permits that you have to get. There's processes that you have to go through in order to do this. Yeah, I've heard of stories like that. This area, for anybody watching, we have cenotes, which are basically from when the dinosaurs were extinct by the meteor hit somewhere around here, and it cleared out these underwater, it cleared out a bunch of rock. The impact broke it all up and things grew back over and whatnot. And we have these underwater rivers that the fresh water from the rain comes through. It goes through the porous rock here that we have in the Riviera Maya, and it fills up these underwater caves, which are called cenotes. I scuba dive. I love to scuba dive. And all of these caves are literally connected. There's 7,000 of them here, and I think we've only discovered maybe like 900 of them. There's thousands of them. And so when the developers go and build, sometimes they actually find more. And there's a process that they have to drill down to figure out if there's any open area, like Alberto was explaining. And if you do end up building, you can fill them with cement, or it depends on if there's water in there and blah blah blah. So that's important to understand, that this area, this is the only area in the world that has that. That's why the cenotes, scuba diving is a very big, pastime here, a hobby here, because it's the only place that you can do that. But it does affect the way that things are built if you don't do it correctly. And when you come from another place in Mexico, it's like, yeah, the ground is flat, it's filled, there's no problem. And then you come here and you have that problem.
Yep.
So
Fun fact, they found a saber tooth, tiger tooth, like 1 kilometer in one of these scuba diving trips inside one of the cenotes. I'm talking like a kilometer in. I mean, way deep in there. It's super, and they found a saber tooth tiger tooth.
Yeah, no, I have friends that, I mean, there's skulls and bodies down there from the Mayans. I've scuba dived in some of them, and there's still clay pots at the bottom. Like, I've seen artifacts, we're not allowed to touch them, but there's clay pots and jewelry in the bottom of these cenotes from a long time ago. They actually recently found some, well,
they found Gotti.
Yeah. But I wanted to touch base on what you wrote down is why will financing change this region? And I think this is pretty big. As of right now, we don't have financing. Well, we do, but the majority of everyone, no one's been able to successfully get financing, including myself. Now, on Saturday, we're going to have a live call just like this to go over exactly what this financing option is. But the reason why I think that this is going to be a huge game changer for this area is because if I'm a developer, I know that there's no financing. So in order to be successful, we have to build 1-bedroom apartments, which amount to a couple of years ago, 100,000 to 150. Now we're getting up to around 200,000 in 1-bedroom apartments, 1-bedroom units. And it's much easier for the developer to look at it on a spreadsheet and say, okay, I have X amount of square meters. I know that I can build 4 floors. And we're going to have 15 units and we can sell this much and we'll get our ROI and blah, blah, blah. And they position it to the investor. They come and they can't get financing, so they pay that in cash. Well, for an investor, it's much easier to come up with less than $200,000 in cash than it is to get $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 in cash. And so this financing option is going to change, I think, the market, because right now we have a like cannibalism, in the sense where we have an oversupply of 1-bedroom apartments, but the demand is not necessarily there. We're seeing it in the resales, right? And so if we can open up the market where we have financing, that allows developers to come through and be able to build bigger projects, meaning 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, maybe villas and things like that, to where now we're offsetting this high supply of 1-bedroom apartments. And now we can open up another like avenue for investors to come through with their $200,000 down payment. And then now they have X amount of years amortized at, I don't know, 20 or 30-year mortgages, where we can open up that floodgate of, okay, listen, guys, we have financing, the developers can build this, and the investors can come through and still use their $200,000 in cash and open up this new market of 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms. Because when you look at AirDNA has maybe, I think, 800 3 bedrooms, whereas AirDNA shows almost 4,000 1-bedrooms. And if I go to Tulum right now, they're building hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of more 1-bedrooms.
Yeah.
And so, not to say that and I want to make note here, is not to say that buying a 1-bedroom is not a bad decision, right? Why? Because you can decorate it how you want it, right? And so a 1-bedroom is not a bad investment. It's just there's an oversaturated amount of them, but you can still buy a 1-bedroom and make yourself stand out. If you go to Airbnb and you filter 1-bedroom apartments, and you look for, today's August 30th, if you look for September 1st to the 6th, and you find one bedrooms, those are the ones you don't follow. You don't make your unit look like that. Why? Because the good ones have already been rented. So here's a little trick. Look in January or February and filter it by one bedrooms, because those are the ones that are being rented out right now. Those are the successful ones right now. So if you're looking for a one bedroom, look 6 months from now, 5 months from now, because they're not going to populate in the search. So that's a little trick. But I think, yeah, this financing is going to open up a huge avenue in both the investor and the developer side, because it's going to be able to allow more differentiating properties to come to fruition, in the sense that, now we have an outlet to be successful on both parties, both the investor and the developer or whoever's building it.
I think I can also tell you, and people always tell me, like, some real estate agents, like, why do you give names? Aren't you worried that people are going to go around you and go straight to the developer? I'm like, well, if that's the case, then they can go straight. I'm here to give information, right? So, for example, right now, Grupo Emerita is a very big developer in this region. They're out of Merida, and they're offering now. They saw this financing situation. You're always trying to show off your long hair, man. That's all you're trying to do.
No one really knows I have.
You're trying to distract me. That's all you're trying to do. So what they did is they saw this, and they're offering now 7 to 10 year financing at 8% interest, right? For their developments, only for Americans though, right? Yeah, it's only for right now. I'm sorry, Americans and Canadians. They're only offering it for Americans and Canadians. They're giving 7 to 10 year financing at 8% interest, which is huge. It's not a 20-year mortgage. It's not, it's not, but it is better than most developers right now will offer you financing throughout the build. So
it's probably a balloon. Is it a balloon and amortized at 20 years, and at that 7th year you have to pay it in full?
No, it's,
yeah.
I don't know. I know it's 7 to 10 years, 8% interest. I can dig deeper. We can find out, so we can give the information. They're doing that. There's also places, companies like Ecasa, which is another very infamous, long history developer that's also offering now. I think they're doing less time. I think they're doing 5-year financing at that 8%. But most developers are only giving, they do 30% down, and they'll give you 18 months to 24 months to pay it off, right? At 0 interest. That's while it's being built. That's as far as you can get. And like you were saying, Nick, the financing option with Carlos, going to be great to talk to this guy on, what's today? Is today Wednesday or Thursday? It's Wednesday. So on Saturday, to get those interest rates, they're 20-year loans. I know that because I've got a couple of customers that have already gotten pre-approved. So it'd be nice to see what kind of audience we get and listen to Carlos talk about it. And another really key thing, important thing that we've established is there's lots of things that give people uncertainty or uncomfort, right? And investing in Mexico. And one of those is understanding the laws and the regulations and the rules, right? And the other one is the language barrier, right? So that's huge for most investors, foreign investors.
Yeah.
So really nice thing about Carlos is he's fluent in English, right? He's Mexican from Mexico City, but he's a mortgage broker and he speaks English. So he'll be able to convey the information in layman's terms and not confuse us with an accent. I mean, it's good stuff, man. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. It is a game changer for the long run. Like you were saying. I mean, if this becomes as strong as it can be, you will have developers now not building based on availability of cash in hand. They'll be basing it on down payments and bigger investments, long-term investments, stuff like that, which also that's a game changer, man. It's a game changer.
Yeah. If I don't know if the financing doesn't allow someone to, I see one issue with what I was explaining earlier is if the financing does not allow you to buy in pre-construction, then that means that the developer has to wait longer or have more cash. But here's the thing. if the developer is someone that is willing to build and they have the funds, that's a good developer because they're not waiting on pre-construction money to finish a project. And so that's something that is pretty good, where maybe the developer could do something like, look, you know, put down your 30% and then you're locked in, you know, you have to get the financing or something like that. I don't know. They could figure something out, but it would kind of filter out the good developers from the bad ones. Because
let me give you an example. Exactly what you're talking about is what we're doing with a client of ours, where in order for the developer to give you the unit in pre-construction, you've got to do 30% down. That blocks your unit, it's yours until delivery. And some developers offer 30-70, right? So they're going to offer you with 30% down and you pay the other 70% at closing when they hand you the keys to your apartment. So in this case, with this particular deal that I have with Carlos, is he got a pre-approval. The developer got their 30% down. And then 2 months before the delivery of the condo, they're going to start the process to get the rest of the funds. And basically Carlos is going to get a 70% financing. So they're going to give the developer the 70%. So they're basically doing a 30-70 financing with the finance company, and they're not going to actually get the loan until 60 days before execution date of basically getting the keys to the developers done. That way they can give the loan to them with the keys of the condo. And that's not all developers can do the 30-70, right? Most developers in pre-construction will ask you for 30% down, and then they'll ask for 60% throughout the construction, and then 10% at closing, right? So you'll have that monthly cost in there, like a 30-60-10, or you'll have a 50-50 sometimes. Just depends on the developer. But yeah, it's an option.
Cool. Yeah, that's good. All right. We have a few viewers. I think maybe we can ask if they have any questions. Shoot them in the chat right here. There is a question from Ray. He says, "What's up, man? I just started watching you guys recently. I'm about 2 weeks away from receiving my Mexican citizenship. How advantageous is this, or is this simply a rich man's sport?" I guess I think the question is in regards to being able to purchase a property with the Mexican citizenship. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Alberto, but you're basically not going to have to buy a fideicomiso and have a yearly $500 fideicomiso payment. It would probably open up some sort of Mexican financing here for you, unless only if you have credit built up here. Like if you're living in the United States and you have Mexican roots, you know, your family was born here, you used to live here, you moved to the US or anywhere outside of Mexico, and then came back and got your citizenship, you're not going to have any sort of credit built up. And that's something that you do need to have built up. So is it a rich?
That's literally my case. I'm literally that scenario. Both my parents were born in Matamoros, Tamaulipas, in Mexico. My family's from Mexico, but I was born in the States, so I'm American. But I have Mexican family, right? So when I moved to Playa in 2007, I went through the process of getting nationalized, right? And once I got nationalized, I got my INE, I got my paperwork, I got my RFC, which is my tax ID number, I got my CURP, which is like a social security number, quote unquote. And then I started working. So after working, I got here 2007. I got my first financing in 2012. So about 4 years, right? Give or take a few, 2011 is when I qualified for enough. I mean, I got credit cards and stuff like that from the banks once I was here for a few months and to establish my credit. But once I had my credit, then I got my first house. So you do need to have established credit, and they're very strict. I mean, it's almost feel like they're more strict than the States. You have to have like, your proof of income, your taxes, but it goes into like not just looking at your bank accounts. They want to look at who you work for. It's crazy. It's almost taking your blood to get financing. So, and the question answering, I don't know if it's really that much of a benefit. Honestly, I mean, if you're not going to live here, right? Other than getting out of the fideicomiso, that's about it.
And you have 2 passports.
Yeah. You have 2 passports, which is nice. You get
So
the
that's the
line
only
in your-
question. That's the only question that we got. It's been almost an hour. So we plan on doing this every Wednesday at 10:30. I'll send this out in an email. If you're subscribed to our mailing list, I'll throw it in right here. It's invest.thetulumvibe.com. You can get everything right there. Maybe I should put it like this. Yeah, okay. You can sign up there and have everything, any updates. We are in the process of making a Discord channel to where everybody can join. We'll have exclusive things inside there, exclusive products and updates for serious investors.
Really good.
I have an online course that I just completed that you're more than welcome to take. This goes way further in depth. But yeah, you can find everything in the invest.thetulumvibe.com and reach out to myself or Alberto on our Instagram in the comments here. You guys know where to find us.
Yep. Thank
So,
you.
all right. See you guys when I see you.
Bye.
Bye.